need to document it. For example, the installation of installation screen. The first one is this, lots of fields, lots of inputs, and the other one is what we all inputs are way too small, the labels are all the way to the left, and it's all tiny but still stretched out. So one of the first things I actually did, I think even in version 2 already, it looks similar to this, which is vastly simplified. It's just admin username and password. And then everything else like database and data directory is advanced settings. So you might notice that this is in Spanish. I oftentimes use interfaces in different languages, like I don't fully know Spanish, so that I can test that it's actually also understandable in other languages. Sorry if I don't know that language. So it kind of explains itself, but that just on the side. And you see a lot of things that we cut from there, like database prefix and all these different things. And because that's stuff that people, if they really want to modify, they can go to the database and do it themselves. So you have to be very opinionated about that. And I always like to refer to that little quote, one of my most favorite open source design quotes from Howard Pennington from 2002. It says, reading dozens of known red hat bugs per day, I find that users ask for a preference by default. So if there's anything that they don't like with the interface, they ask for, can we do it like that, or at least introduce a switch or an option to make it like that. So the problem with that is always that you have to maintain the preference, you add another preference, and in general, the options should be reserved for what's really important options. So even adding options degrades the UX of the application, because some options are really important actually than others. So it's always important to be aware of the power users which run around in the IRC channel and the issue tracker, which are very loud in their opinion, but it's not necessarily the best for the product. And I run into them like not every day, but every week or every few weeks. There's someone who just likes to voice their opinion, and that's cool and all, and sometimes they have good points, but it's really important to keep in mind that it's not necessarily a normal person or a normal user, like 80% of users, because they don't want to be your issue tracker in your IRC channel. And to the documentation point, it's again another quote by Björn Ballard. If various people work on the same interface, they will need to justify what they do, convince others why their ideas are so great. So that's very important also with the power using thing, because if you can justify and if you can explain everything that you do, where your designs look, then you're going to have good arguments towards why you design it in a specific way. And it's going to be less opaque to also power users like that, why you did it in that way. And maybe at some point they're going to understand why you did it. And they're going to even be like what you did. So I like to refer to that as kind of design speech, right? So as a developer, if you're an open source developer, it's very easy to, or not very easy, but it's a common thing to have look at other people's GitHub profiles and see what open source projects they contribute to, what libraries they wrote, and you have this, like, on GitHub specifically, you have this contribution graph where you can actually see how much they contributed in a year to open source projects, and it's like this sweet credibility. So I like to establish that for designers as well. It's of course a bit more difficult, also because it doesn't necessarily show up in code contributions. But I think we're getting there. Especially after GitHub also now has CSS and HTML as like a language, apart from JavaScript and all the other programming languages. So the second point is building a design culture. That's kind of also rubbing off your design experience to the developers, so that you're not really the only pure designer on the team. Because let's face it, it's really difficult as designers of open source. So we need to make the developers kind of designers or have design experience. So what I like to do, what also comes back to the explanation or documentation point, is I open issues. So in any issue tracker, like you just open an issue with a new concept, with good mockups, with well-explained use cases and everything. So everything is explained here, and we see there's not that many participants there, but it's all also developers, and there are other issues with like 20 participants, but the number doesn't really matter. The point is that having these discussions on the issue tracker involves developers a lot. So you also see there's a design tag to denote that it's a design issue. So it's a really good way to get the developers involved and to establish this design culture in the project. Another good example of that is the GNOME Design Wiki. They have, for every application basically, they have a wiki page for mail app, calendar app, photos, file manager and stuff. They have a design page which exactly describes which lists the use cases, and it also, what I find very important, it lists prior artwork. So the file managers of Windows, of OS X, of other online services, of mobile operating systems, of iOS, WebOS, and stuff like that. And so they have a kind of base to work off. Also, for others to see what else there is out there. If you're only using Android or Linux, then you don't really know how OS X might work, or how the Dropbox interface works, even though there's many points to be gained from that. So I find myself often going there to the design wiki if I need to design something new or find some inspiration and see what they did, also because non-design is pretty good. And another example is an article by Alex Faber of the Firefox Design Team on quantifying usability and basically on inserting tags into the issue tracker to make UX or design a more prominent topic also in the issue tracker for developers. So kind of like the design tag there before, also in the ownCloud issue tracker. This is a bigger set of tags. So it's more granular, like the UX feedback for if there is a missing loading spinner, for example, or UX undo if there's an action that is supposed to be undoable, it's not at the moment, or UX jargon, which refers to wording, like if something uses technical language that should be changed. And I really like that. I prefer to keep the stuff simpler, so I prefer just the design tab as a start. But of course, if the organization gets bigger, as big like Mozilla, you need different tags to just organize it better because your amount of issues is really big. And I had this funny experience actually Tuesday night. You probably know K9 Mail, the email app on Android. So I've been using it for some time, and I had my small gripes about it. And Tuesday night, before the flight, I dropped into their IRC channel, and on like, I don't know, 0:30, so just a few minutes before that, actually. And I found a few issues before, like the day before, a few design issues, and then this new Christian Kettner, he says to me at some point, after some design discussion, he says, "Do you mind if I add you as a collaborator and create a design overhaul milestone so you can organize your UI and UX issues and GitHub?" And I thought, well, yeah, that would be cool. I was pretty blown away by that because he's like the developer and he had pretty nice thoughts on that. So that's also a way where you can build the culture from the developers. Next thing is design and developer pairing. So also coming back to that, like where the lead developer is very enthusiastic about design contributions, it's that designers and developers need to work together in kind of this pair programming or pair designing fashion. So on the ownCloud issue tracker, for example, we have the design tag, but there's not only issues or feature requests with the design tag, but also pull requests or patches. So you see, like the top two ones are by me, and then there's one by a developer, and there's an issue by me, then there's a design issue from the developer. So it's very mixed everything. And that I think is very important, so that also the developers, while working together with you, again learn a bit more about the design. So basically, oftentimes I don't even have to intervene and improve the design because it's already made pretty well by the developers, because I'm the only full-time or main designer on ownCloud still. So that's very important to keep in mind as a project, because for an open source project, you're rarely going to have more than one designer. Another important thing is to have good documentation, in this case, CSS, HTML, and also design guidelines. Like we have another page which has more general guidelines. But here in this case, that's very important to have the actual building blocks. So you have a specific, for example, markup for navigation. If you're building an app as a developer, you can just take this code and then put it in your templating or whatever, and it will just look nice. It will just look like the standard website. And this is a mock-up I did together with our desktop developer. The green, blue parts, are mine, and the red part is his writing. So we basically collaborated on a whiteboard together, and it was just good, pair programming, pair design, to understand also the requirements and what's possible. So that's very important to always work together also on whiteboards, not only on the issue. And then the next thing is you're still the only designer, is you need to build a good team. So it starts with teaching the developers a bit, or identifying front-end people, but then you also need to build a specific place for designers. And this is, for example, a collection of design channels, IRC channels in open source projects. ownCloud design, for example, GNOME design on Drupal usability, and UX channel on Mozilla IRC network. And the important thing here is that that's not only for designers, but that's also for the developers who want to work together with the designers. So again, it's about bringing these together. And if someone has questions or if they want to learn how to improve their app, they can also just go there as developers. So it's also about closing this gap between designers and developers. We also have a designers group on our, we use GitHub for ownCloud. They have these groups. So there's a designers group of 9 or 10 people, of which, a lot of them are developers actually, design-minded developers. So that makes it very easy to mention them on issues. So I just say on a pull request or on any design issue, I just say, hey, ownCloud designers review these, so everyone gets CC basically. And the design page, the contribution page, to get new people involved. And that's also kind of the more general page where the more general design guidance are. Then the fifth point is that you need to also teach and share, and with the developers and also with the designers. And Mozilla does that very well with their blog, as does Ubuntu, as does Drupal and WordPress. They have these design blogs, and it's very cool to also see how the other open source projects work. And interesting stuff like India Firefox OS user research, like stuff that normal open source project would never really before or could never really do. You can just check out what they found and what was interesting. Like Ubuntu, for example, found in Chinese user testing that the aspect of being open source and free is not really important because they parrot everything anyway. So Windows is also free, so that's not really an argument. And another thing, for example, is that there's novice or junior jobs or tasks, bite-sized bugs, small issues which can be picked up by a newcomer to the project. So here in Drupal, it's called novice, we call it junior job, we call it starters, or I think it's no bug. So it's small issues that people can begin with. And I also work, for example, with design students. I go to university, at the Media University in Stuttgart, where I studied, and Merz Academy is also design university in Stuttgart. I work with both of them to get the design students more involved in open source, just by proposing that there is a project, an open source project, that they can work on, because normally they choose the projects themselves, so they choose working on Skype or Facebook, which of course never gets towards Facebook developers, because it's just constant work. Then, yeah, to come to the last point is that there's more and more design-focused open source projects. You probably saw that in the recent years, also because of the MSA regulations and stuff. Everyone cares a bit more about open source and designs as well. And so it's very important, I think, to integrate with them and collaborate. So that it's actually not a collection of decentralized monopolies. So they have their protocol, they have their network and stuff. So it's very important to collaborate on open formats to try to have common ground and have some connection. And I always think that user experience is a thing that extends beyond one single software project, because no one is only going to use GNOME, or no one is only going to use OS X, or no one is only going to use Google products, right? It's simply not possible, and it's also it's not possible because there's so many other specific projects that you need every day. So we in the open source world, we have the specific opportunity for the specific case where we can actually collaborate very easily without it, destroying our business model. So that I think is very important to collaborate. For example, from online accounts offers to connect Gmail or Google account, Microsoft account, ownCloud account, Libre account, and all this. That's a very good piece of collaboration. And another thing from another conference, you probably know FOSDEM, the European Source Conference. This year, in February, we had, for the first time in the history of that developer conference, or open source developer conference, we had an open source design track, which I'm super proud of. We had a full day of different open source designers from different projects, from LibreOffice, from MediaGuard, and all over the place, basically. And we'll try to do that every year now. So you're very welcome to also get some good talks or participate. So we're trying to heighten the profile of design open source more. Another thing, another initiative looking towards that is open source design. It's online source at opensourcedesign.net, and we also have jobs, for example. So it's like this small job board where open source projects can post if they need a logo, or if they need an X design or something, or if, I don't know, a company like Mozilla or something is hiring. And also events where Libre Graphics Meeting here is also in there, and so if you're interested in that, that's the place to find it. It's also on Twitter and GitHub, and we're just trying to build a platform for everyone who exists who works on open source design and just push that forward. So to recap, you need to design well, and you need to explain your reasoning. Then you need to try to build a design culture, working together with developers. You need to pair your programming and designing, again together with developers. Then build a team that extends beyond just you, design team. Then teach and share other people, or teach and share with others. And then integrate and collaborate beyond your project with other projects. And that's it. Thank you. At 20+1 or so, I also had this UX review session. So everyone's welcome for that. There's a source project, and we're just going to do like a UX review of each other's projects.
I think we have time for one question. Nobody? Okay.
Cool. Thanks.